Venerable Amma Thanasanti Bhikkhuni ordained as a Buddhist nun in 1991 in the Thai forest tradition. She currently is based at the Shakti Vihara hermitage in Colorado as a solitary nun. Welcome, Amma.
Thank you, Kathy.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome to New York. So how are you finding? I saw pictures of you on Facebook in Central Park.
Yes, I'm staying in a place right next door, a block away from Central Park. So my first agenda when I got here was to go and to spend some time meditating on the rocks yesterday afternoon and again this morning. It was lovely.
It is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like shockingly lovely.
It is beautiful. Yeah, very peaceful, and it's just lovely to be in a place where there's water and rocks and a sense of being in nature, even though we're just, a block away from a big city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, what does Central Park bring to New York in terms of the energy levels? Like how does that change, like New York, and does it make like this peaceful, like oasis,
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I know for me it's a real haven to be able to come into something that's familiar to me and then to be able to relax and to feel and sense the elements around me and to use that as a way of centering and calming. So I don't travel very well, and so for me to be able to have an immersion into a place like that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't travel well. I want to go off into the insight thing because I could totally go off onto the whole thing, but that's another segment, I think.
Yeah.
So in this segment, we're going to be talking about insight meditation. Can you tell us a little bit about what insight meditation is?
Yes, well, most of the time for most of us, what happens is whatever thoughts that we have or feelings that we have or body sensations that we have, we get really wrapped up in them and almost sometimes hijacked by them. And so as a result of that, there's an underlying sense of anxiety and a sense of unrest, because for most people there's a kind of a quiet war going on, trying to collect sensations and experiences that are pleasant and trying to get rid of things that are unpleasant. But the reality is that we only have a very limited amount of control over what we directly experience. And so when we are related that way to what's happening, then we're suffering. So with insight meditation, we're learning to look in a different way to what's happening, rather than be absorbed in the thoughts and the feelings and the moods and the sensations, to notice them, to watch them as they're arising. And then when we do that, it can change our relationship with them.
Great. So it changes them in what way, and how does it change your relationship?
It doesn't change the things that we're experiencing, it changes our relationship with it. It changes the way that we are experiencing them rather than the things themselves. So normally when we're absorbed into it, then we're identified with what's happening. And in our identification, there's a deep investment in wanting things to be the way we like them, not to be the way we don't like them, to have them affirm who we think we are, to be not in discord with our idea of who we are. So like, for example, as a meditator, I don't like to feel angry. And so when I feel angry, there's a whole internal relationship with the anger around not wanting to feel it, not wanting to experiencing it, and that relationship then makes me experience more stress when the feeling of anger arises.
Mm-hmm. And so how does insight help that?
So insight is a way of training attention so that we are settling into the present moment in a way where we are observing the body sensations and our breath and the moods and the emotions and the thoughts that are arising rather than absorbing into them. So as we're observing what's actually arising, rather than identifying with what's arising, it shifts our way of relating to it. It's no longer me experiencing it. There's just a sense of like bubbles emerging out of the ocean, or in like a popcorn container, just popping things that are coming up. But it is known in a field of awareness that is big enough to hold everything without the judgment of whether or not it should be there or shouldn't be there.
So with the anger, so I feel anger, I'm angry, and then under normal circumstances, then I sort of get caught up in that, and I don't like it, and there's all these other things that happen. But what you're talking about is if I'm sort of aware of that, then it doesn't have to trouble me so much, or I don't have those secondary secondary effects to that.
So what usually can happen with meditation, especially with something as evocative as anger, is rather than try and directly observe the anger as anger, is to change the focus of one's attention to the body experience of how we're feeling it. Because the body is a lot easier to pay attention to without getting hijacked. Okay? So when we shift focus from the thoughts and the things that are actually making us agitated to actually where we're experiencing those sensations in our body and notice them there, then it's much more easy to be attentive to body sensations without the associative thoughts and feelings and images and memories that are oftentimes activating more angry thoughts.
Interesting. And we can get that from this meditation practice.
Yes, definitely. So insight meditation is designed to help us to be able to observe what's going on so that we're not being hijacked by our thoughts and our feelings, and so that we're able to have much more skill and wisdom and compassion in relating both inwardly to what's going on as well as in the world around us.
That's interesting. I totally want to try that now. Can we try it?
We can try it.
We'll try it for a few minutes, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So can we maybe do it for like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
More or less. I mean, there's no.
So with insight meditation, let's just start with closing eyes and letting attention to go inward and feeling your body sitting. And as attention begins to move inwardly, notice the different sensations that are present, the tightness, the heat, the pressure, the weight. And with every sensation, there'll be an experience of something as pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And as we pay attention to the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, just notice that there can be a little bit more spaciousness around just noticing this is what's happening, rather than feeling, I've got to do something about it, I've got to change it, this is a problem, or I like it, I want it to stay. So the observation of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral that we can feel with every sensation brings more capacity to just observe rather than react. React from our habitual tendencies of wanting, of not wanting, of feeling confused. So we can also bring this quality of observation to our thoughts. And it's a little challenging to observe thoughts because thoughts are a little bit sticky, a little bit like flypaper. We get stuck into them very easily. But we can also notice a thought that's arising. Might feel content, might feel restless, might get distracted and think about cooking or planning or something that needs to be done, or a conversation that happened. But when we are able to observe the thought as simply a thought that's arising, then again, there's more settledness, there's more peace, there's more clarity, there's less reactivity, there's less believing it. And so when there aren't strong thoughts, we can bring our attention back to the breath and to the body and return to the body as an anchor for allowing attention to settle. A still point. Just feeling the cool in-breath coming in and the warm, moist out-breath leaving. Still, collected, centered, present, and aware of body sensations, aware of whether it's pleasant and unpleasant and neutral, aware of associated thoughts and feelings that emerge in response to the initial contact. And gently open your eyes and just softly notice the colors and the forms that you see. But still stay connected to your body as a place of reflective awareness to rest. So how was that for you, Kathy?
Good.
What was good about it?
Oh, you asked some tough questions. You know, it was like you said, where when you come into your body, when you become aware of your body, it does, even though there was tension in my body, it did sort of make me relax. Just that actual process of like not being so much stuck in my head and now like going down into my body. We did it for a short period of time, but there was, even in that moment, though, that short period, I was able to come into my body.
So that's one of the miracles of mindfulness, is that, you know, even just a short period of time where we allow our attention to drop in that way can shift anxiety and depression and underlying body tension, and there can be more relaxation and less physical pain and more clarity about what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. And what if I didn't today, well, I did a little bit, but but what if when you drop into your body, all you find is misery? You know what I mean? Like a pain and the ache and the anxiety and the stress, you know, this tension. I mean, how do I deal with that?
So learning how to deal with the unpleasant sensations that we have is a learning, and it's going to take, you know, longer than 5 minutes to master it.
No.
And it's going to take longer than 30 minutes to explain it, because
Mm-hmm.
there's some nuances. Mm-hmm. But part of the
in a
reason,
very general way.
But part of the reason why the body hurts so much is because we a little bit relate to our bodies oftentimes the way we would relate to a doghouse. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't attend. We're not caring. We don't bring it. We don't have a kind of a wholesome, caring, kind relationship with our own body. And as a result, there's an accumulation of stress that comes, and then when we finally do pay attention, it's uncomfortable. And so what is needed is to notice that everything that's present is there, and to begin to relate to everything in a way which is more skillful, more wise, more kind. So rather than pushing the sensations out of the awareness, trying to get rid of them, one needs to learn how to observe the resistance to feeling things which are unpleasant, and learn how to allow that resistance to help increase the relaxation. Also, one needs to learn how to pay attention in a way where one can support relaxation, can dispel the anxiety, to actually let the feelings that are easeful spread out, so that the body begins to relax, just like, you know, under a waterfall, or when the sun is hitting a frozen cube of butter, it'll start to melt. You know, the body can feel that way, where it's like we've got an internal massage that's going on by the way in which we're paying attention.
So are you saying that if we pay attention to these discomforts, these physical discomforts, then I think are you saying maybe it's two things you're saying. One thing is That there will sort of be a relaxation just in the fact that we're sort of noticing without attaching to it, without sort of getting caught up and judging the physical sensation, the pain or the aching or whatever it is. And so that will sort of, not calm us, but like make us more relaxed. So that's one thing that you're saying, but then you're also, and then I think you're also saying that there's also a mental component to it, in that, and you're, to like sort of relax that, so that it doesn't become sort of a cycle, you know, that we're sort of creating this mental cycle of.
That's right, Kathy. So I think what happens for most of us is that when we have something that's unpleasant, we have the physical sensation, then we have a reaction to it. And the reaction to it often is resistance. And we're not paying attention to the resistance, but the resistance can actually cause a lot more physical pain and a lot more mental stress. So when we bring attention into our body and we notice the actual physical sensation, we begin to be able to separate out what's the actual sensation and what is the resistance, the reaction, the not wanting it to be there. When we relax and soften around our reaction, often that can shift the sensation itself, because some of the appearance of the sensation is actually our reaction to it.
And not the thing itself.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the stress that we carry is self-created. It's our reaction to what's happening. When we learn how to pay attention in a particular way where that can relax, then all of that tension begins to soften and ease and release. And as that does, then our body also follows suit. So we can learn to relax ourselves by learning to let go of our resistance to what's happening. But the anxiety component is that, you know, many of us walk around feeling anxious for a variety of reasons, and we need to learn how to focus our attention on places that are calming. So rather than take a deep dive into the anxiety, we take a place where we can let our attention rest that is calming, that is settled, that is soothing, that is nurturing, and relax into that. And as we relax into that, then the anxiety will begin to lessen and subside and can release. So that there are two components to it, but the skill is learning how to pay attention in the right way, learning where to put one's attention and how to relax into the attention in a way that isn't pushing, isn't forced, isn't pressurized, isn't judgmental, but in a kind of gentle, open, interested, curious way.
It sounds like that process is going to take a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, we can learn and we can do some every day. We can do a little bit in a few minutes. But for me, you know, I have seen that over many years that my ability to do this has increased. And the results have also been more evident.
Like what?
In terms of my ability just to relax the tension as a result of reactivity. And to be able to notice and track when I'm anxious, and then refocus my attention on something that's calming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just let's talk about for a few minutes, like if I'm at home and I want to start to do this sort of practice, how would I begin, or how would I start? I mean, we're not going to do it, so you can give a bigger picture than 5 minutes. But if I wanted to do this at home, how would I begin?
There's an awful lot of online guided meditations, and I would encourage that. I would encourage you to find a teacher and guidance that actually resonates with you, because there's nuances to learning how to meditate, and it's helpful to be receiving the guidance from somebody that you have some confidence is going to be able to help you. So that would be one thing. But in terms of your own space, what I would do is I would find a corner and clear it, so that it isn't filled with things that are going to evoke your attention. And then find a place where you can sit and spend some time with your posture, because there's an art form to the posture in terms of learning how to sit so that the sacrum is in the right relationship with the spine, and that allows the back to be upright in a way where it's the least amount of effort, which makes the most amount of ease. And then just taking a couple of moments and letting attention to drop in and feeling what's there. So the what's important is to begin with an awareness that's non-judgmental, that's welcoming whatever is present. So without a long list of agendas of things that you want to do and accomplish and get done and have and not have, just come with an idea of curiosity. Oh, I'm going to be on an exploration. I want to find out what's going on. What does it feel like? Just if I allow my attention to go inward and notice what's here.
So to bring that sort of ease is important to this practice.
Yes, the ease is important, and even more than ease is a quality of kindness, of care, of respect, of a sense of, my own health and happiness is important. And from my own health and happiness can generate a sense of well-being that can radiate out into the world. And so if I am not able to take care here, then I don't have anything to give outside. So it's more than a sense of ease, it's a sense of real importance of why we need to do this. Because the normal way of doing things, which is to run after the things that we like and to push away the things that we don't like, doesn't bring any lasting well-being and contentment. It just causes a rat race that never is ending. And that rat race we can see in our own lives, we can see around us and the people around us.
Can you see that in New York?
I can see that in New York.
Not in New York. So it sounds like this insight practice it's not just for ourselves, but it's also for the greater good, to sort of, if we're feeling peaceful and calm, then we can bring that into the outer world. And so that's why we try to approach this practice with a sense of ease and a sense of taking care of ourselves and nurturing ourselves, because then it kind of comes full circle.
When we look more deeply into what we actually are as human beings, we can't see that we are actually separate. There isn't a solid, separate thing that I can find me. Where am I? What I am is the result of the food that I have and the water that I have, and it's the result of the friendships that I have. It's the result of many different conditions coming together. So when we meditate, we are plugging into this interdependent web of bringing a force of care and kindness in ourselves, and that force of care and kindness is naturally going to be radiating out to everyone and everything that we have any contact with. Your animals will notice it. The plants will thrive. I mean, you don't have to be talking from a philosophical perspective for people to understand or feel or notice or register somebody who's not agitated, who's not anxious, who's not feeling depressed, who's not worried, who's not angry. It's noticeable. And everyone, every living being notices, they can feel that. They feel the impact of that.
And that's what this practice is about.
Yes, and this practice is about ending suffering for oneself and bringing a force of goodness into the world.
I sort of, so over the course of the past few weeks or whatever, when I've been taping different people, there are a bunch of common threads that I find very interesting in very different traditions. And you touched on one of the ones that I've been most intrigued by, which is people's desire to help others. People's getting involved in different forms of meditation practices because they want to help their community, the world, and they believe that their practice doesn't just benefit them, but it benefits the whole entire world.
I think anybody who brings forward a lack of confusion and kindness and compassion and a sense of empathy for the suffering of others is going to have a force that's much bigger than their own individual well-being. That, I think, would be inevitable.
Regardless of whatever practice, I guess, right? Yeah, it's a nice thing, this, my experience of doing the show and talking to so many people from different traditions and seeing these common threads. I mean, maybe it exists out there. Maybe there is a tradition that's sort of all about oneself, but I haven't found it yet. So I want to thank you for coming, and we'll be doing a few more episodes, hopefully. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
So, that was